The meat of our meeting tonight is going to be spent with Matt Sumstein. We all know who he is. We use his videos for our training. We've all seen him. Okay, he's a national guru. He actually authored the intentional grounding rule that's been implemented for this season. So we're extremely fortunate to have him here with us tonight.
I thought you made a really, really excellent point. When you said if you get to that third sideline situation, that you may be part of the problem. And I wanted to touch on that because that's a big mouthful. I have seen officials lean into contact, and that's the worst type of being part of the problem. If you're leaning into contact, you got no business on the field. So, in the reverse of that, you need to do everything you can to avoid it. Even if they're in your way, do everything you can to avoid it, and then flag them for the warning or whatever situation you're in, whether it's the first, second, or third. But I thought that was a great quote. You may be part of the problem. One of the other things, and I'm going to share a screen here real quick for the football field. We talked about the box, and I think that is a misnomer because it's not the box, it's the restricted area. And if you refer to it as the restricted area, that means it's not a coach's box. It's a restricted area that has very specific timelines attached to it. So you had mentioned that once the offense breaks the huddle, then I interpreted that the coaches have to vacate. We do something very similar. Once the center is in position to touch the ball, then the coaches have to vacate. So we're very similar in that instance. But what people need to understand, and officials and coaches especially, is that is not a coach's box. That is a very time-sensitive, restricted area. It is our office to work within once the center is over the ball. So if you get used to calling it a restricted area instead of a coach's box, it kind of helps in keeping the coaches out of there. So I just wanted to bring up that quick point based on, some of the dialogue that you had already shared. Now, in playing in this format, I believe you'll get the audio that I want you to get as well. So I picked out, we're not going to get through them, but I picked out 45 plays, right? 45 plays takes 5 hours to get through unless there's no questions and it's speed talking. But I did pick a couple of subjects in here that I think are really important. Clock management, illegal downfield players, kicking plays. The punt plays get you in a lot of trouble. Horse collar tackle, there's been a little bit of inconsistency with that. Some holding concepts, crossfield, reverse mechanics, and then a terminology called blind strike, which I'll get to at the end. Even if we run out of time, I'll just jump to it. So what I want you guys to do, first of all, is I'm going to try to stop this right here. Okay, so you can see my cursor. This guy's not yet set, right? Anybody can jump in. Doesn't matter to me. As long as you turn your mic on, turn your mic off, you guys can jump in. If I ask a question, just somebody answer it. So this guy's not set, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what we notice here is we're in the second quarter. We're very short on time. And we're in a pretty competitive ball game. The team in white, but they're trying to score, right? Second quarter, they've got one time. Yeah, it's their team in white is Punahou. They've got one timeout, very time sensitive. And you can see that it's 3rd and 10, right? So what are we expecting on this play? Anybody shout it out.
Pass.
We're expecting a pass, maybe working sidelines.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's really what we start to think about. So when I talk to people at any level of football, the number one thing that will get you in trouble in high-level football, meaning televised football, championship football, playoff football, number one thing is the clock. That will catch you off guard when it shouldn't. The second thing is usually some type of punt play. But this is a complete clock environment. So let me just go ahead and play a little bit here. You see, he never got set, and they surprised us with a run, right? So we got to the 14-yard line. That means we're going to roll the down. But what did we start? What down did we start with? You guys remember? Third down. So that means we're going to roll the down. So in a normal situation of this nature, the team would just pretty much run the clock down to 4 seconds and call their timeout, bring their field goal team out and kick. I mean, we can pretty much agree that that's what they would do, seeing how this is second quarter. If it was fourth quarter, that's not the case. But second quarter, that's probably what's going to happen. But you can see this official up top looks back to the coach as if, do you want the timeout? So when he looks back, yeah, he wants the timeout, unaware of the penalty at this point. Let me just roll this back a little bit. So you can see our clock at 20. We never get set. Got a run play. The clock started properly. He's down at about 16. Natural stop. You get a 1 or 2 second drip. We hope only one in this type of scenario, right? Especially if we've got a flag down. So really we should be at 14. Well, we're at the 13, but should have been 14, maybe 15.
That's not set. 5-yard penalty, replay third down.
So, do you think that the defense would accept this penalty?
No.
Maybe not, right? Maybe not. But because we had a penalty, what does that do with the clock?
They have the option to go on the, to keep it running or to go on the snap. They're probably going to keep that clock running.
Who has the option?
The offended team, which is the defense in this circumstance.
Defense in this situation, right. But the clock does stop with the penalty.
Right.
So since the clock stops with the penalty and they've got 13, they don't really need to use their timeout, right? I mean, if they wanted to go, if they accept that penalty, we're still at third down. So they really don't need to use that timeout. And this is one of those weird situations where we have to tell the coach, as soon as I blow that whistle, the clock's going to start, because that's what the defense is going to want. So, you know, use that to your advantage and snap the ball as soon as we blow the whistle, because that's going to effectively be a timeout. So that's a lot of dialogue that we have to discuss when we're talking about penalty enforcements and do we want the clock to start and do we not want the clock to start? But none of that really happened here. So the coach ends up being confused. He doesn't know what's happening. Normally they're just complaining about the penalty, but you can see what they did here. They brought it back, 5 yards from the previous spot. We're now still at third down. We're still at 13 seconds. The defense is going to want the clock to wind. The offense should be already aware that when the referee gets here and blows his whistle, that's really the time to snap the ball, within a second of that. But now Punahou calls timeout. So for them to call timeout when they have this advantage already by them accepting the penalty doesn't make sense. So what I'm trying to get across here is that we all have to be situationally aware. We all have to know what's happening and what the options are for all of the teams in order to successfully navigate the landmine, which is the timing in the last 2 minutes, especially of a close game. So just wanted to share that with you. You guys brought up some good stuff about the 2 minute. This ended up being a real confusing moment for the coach.
The look on his face is one of confusion. He's trying to figure this all out.
Yeah. Can you guys hear that audio?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's nothing more true than that. And there's nothing more that we want to avoid than that, right? We don't want people to be confused. We want to take things logically, step by step, make sure that we cover it. On another note, whoever threw that flag, because that's it's a foul at the snap, right? So it has nothing to do with the end of the play. The play ended up well away from that particular person who threw the flag. It's that person's job to immediately check the clock when the ball's dead. so that if you need to add a second or two, you can do it. Because a second or two with 10 seconds on the clock is 20% of the game, right? So we need to make sure we get it put back up, as opposed to midway through the first quarter when nobody cares about a second or two. All right, this one is a little bit bigger of a clock problem. You can see we're in this magic moment, right? Second quarter, 2nd and 2, 139. The score is still competitive. Roosevelt's got the ball. They're on Kaimuki's side of the field. So they're trying to score. Roosevelt's got 3 timeouts. So 139, I will tell you, we do have a penalty on this play. So the clock should stop at the end, which is something we just discussed.
Here by Teixeira. Brandon Teixeira gets brought down hard by Matt Williams. Teixeira was one of 3 possible quarterbacks they could use this.
Yeah, still seeing the clock.
Yeah.
So line to gain was the 38. He didn't make it. 39. They ruled progress.
55 defense. Illegal helmet contact. First ball.
All right. So we're not grading the illegal helmet contact. We're just discussing what happens with the timing. So I'm going to let it run a little bit more. By the way, don't wear your hat like that. So here we are. We're when all is said and done, we're at 121. We had a penalty against the defense. So what will the offense want to do with the clock?
On the snap.
On the snap. What's the referee doing?
Right.
So whose responsibility is it to fix that?
Referees.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody's responsibility. So here's what I tell the guys here and the guys everywhere. Because we have a 2-minute timing difference, if you guys use radios, or even if you don't, you need to figure out a communication process that says we're in 2-minute timing. So everybody becomes responsible for 2-minute timing. The referee, I can tell you from experience, they lose their mind after penalty enforcements. They don't know anything about clock management. So it's up to everyone else to tell him that we're in 2-minute timing, defensive foul, the offense gets the option, they're going to want to start on the snap. That's everybody's responsibility. So just throwing that out there. So I'm going to go back to the beginning again. And we know we don't meet the line to gain, which the line to gain was the 38. They got to the 39. So in reality, right, we all agree he didn't make it?
Correct.
Okay, so in reality, we have a running clock progress, which takes about 2 seconds to shut down. So 135, 34, 33. If we have a penalty, maybe 32. But this is what I'm talking about. Whoever throws the penalty, when this play's over, needs to look at the clock right then, because you're in a time-sensitive environment. So we're at 132. I think they reset it to 121.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty substantial difference when you have a team with a bunch of timeouts and they're on the opponent's side of the field after a big penalty. So I just want to bring this out that everyone has to be situationally aware when we get into these timing environments that we're all responsible for it. I'm just bringing that up because timing issues can sneak up on you, and sometimes you don't even know they happen. They guessed. They said, hey, when was that play over? And then they reset it to 21. This is a televised game. They could have called the timer to ask the TV people, but that's, it's better if we get it on the field. It's really just somebody has to take a look at the clock at the end of the play if you're not responsible for dead ball action. So that was my point on those 2 plays. This is an example of, you can see we're real short on time here at the end of a period. I'm sorry. Does anybody have any questions about those first 2 environments?
No, I really like your comment about the person throwing the flag getting eyes on the clock Because in that circumstance, if that had transpired, we would have saved 12 seconds minimally.
Yeah, I mean the only exception to that is if they run right at you and you've got a face mask at the end of the run and you're trying to break things up. So,
Sure.
you know, ideally it's who throws the flag, but really it's anybody who's not managing dead ball activity. So in time sensitive environments, everybody needs to be aware. And if you use radios, then say it on the radio. Hey, you know, we're under two. We're under two. That all that means is keep an eye on the clock. And we've got clock options on penalties. So here we are at the end of the third period. He calls targeting. By the way, don't look at your flag. It will come down without your help. But he does call targeting, and you can see at this point there's 0 on the clock. Technically, there was a little bit more time on the clock. You know, when the play was over, technically there was, I don't know, 1.7, 1.4. This doesn't matter. I mean, there is a human process, a human element to this game. If you can get it, then you get it. But he sees this contact, he throws the flag. We know the clock is going to stop. When everybody looks up, it's going to be at 0. Unless you have replay, there's no way you're going to know. The point I'm trying to make here is this is a live ball foul. And if you have a live ball foul on the last timed down of a period, then that period is extended. Can we all agree on that?
Yes, agreed.
Yeah, so you can see the mistake there, right? So who's responsible for that?
Everyone.
Everybody, right? Oh, you guys already know my answer to that. As soon as I say who's responsible, I would say everybody's responsible, right? Whether it's targeting or not, you know, you can debate that all day. But it was called, and the clock did run out as part of the continuing action of the play. They had no idea there was time on the clock, so you got to extend that period.
Mike, is there an exception if the penalty includes a loss of down in Federation?
Is there an exception for a loss of down live ball foul? Yes, excellent point, and thanks for bringing that up. If the quarter ends on a live ball foul by the offense that includes a loss of down, which is typically going to be a legal forward pass, then the quarter is not extended or the game is not extended with the acceptance of that foul. Excellent point. Also, dead ball fouls, non-player fouls, unsportsmanlike fouls, those are succeeding spot fouls and will also not extend the quarter.
Let me get my clock in here. It's no good without the clock. So on a typical field goal, time running off the clock, anywhere between 3 and 5 seconds. Typical field goal. If you got a guy that can kick a 70-yarder, okay, he might get 6 or 7. But if you're in here this tight, 3 to 5 is your max. So let's go ahead and look at that.
From 22.
Ball hit the ground, 7:58. All right, so we just keep running that clock. So what I'm trying to point out is if you're in the middle of the third quarter, nobody's going to notice that. But if you're under 2 minutes or even under 5 minutes in a real tight game or a championship game or a playoff game, people are going to notice that. So you might as well get it right all the time. So if you're on a scoring play other than a PAT, which you know it's not going to run, you just need to go back and check that it didn't. But if you're on a field goal, then just check the clock. Look at it beforehand and say, we're at 8. So worst case, we're going to be at 7:55. Just say it. Say it to your buddy under the pole so that you don't end up slipping a lot of time. I watched a play last weekend that was played here. It was a 3-yard dive, and it took 10 seconds on a 3-second play. So it's just a matter of being aware of the clock that will save you in a lot of scenarios. And it's not the one that it saves you that matters. It's when you're aware of it the whole game that you will then be aware of it when it matters. So that's my advice to you as far as timing goes. So as far as that topic goes, that's all the plays I have for that. All right. So one of the things that this was also one of my rule changes, by the way, that if a player wasn't properly equipped, then you take them off the field and they can't come back till the next play. And that did away with the penalty aspect of it, other than the penalty of losing that player for a down. So in this state anyway, we take that seriously, even for the coin toss. So we would not let this guy come out for the coin toss until he was tucked in. So it just sends a message to everybody, coaches, players, everybody, that once we go out there for the coin toss and really for the field checks, there is a transference of authority. And I'm not saying, to be a bad A about it. I'm just saying there is. When you go and shake hands and have those coaches conferences, they've been in charge all week for their practices and their players and their parents and what their play schedule is going to be. But once you shake their hand, there's a transference of authority, and the officials take over the administrative aspects of the game. And once that happens, then if you get into a formal environment like this, then they should be properly prepared for it. So that's what I tell our guys out here, and it seems to have cleaned up a lot of the uniform issues. Oh, I did hear in Mike's previous statements about overtime that, when you have overtime, you have that 3-minute break and the officials get together, they discuss the overtime rules. That is an absolute proper mechanic, because the rules in overtime are different. But we tell our guys before the game, it's more important that the coaches be informed as to what happened in the middle of the field than us going out there, and that we make sure guys line up on the right side of the field and that they know who they are as far as kicking or receiving. So we have our guys, we have this guy stay out, we have this guy stay out. We don't need a huddle or a starburst before the kickoff. We just want to make sure the teams are in the right spot. All right. The next 1, 2, 3 plays are players downfield plays. So NFHS is 2 yards. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that right?
2 yards.
Say that again.
2 yards, correct.
2 yards. Okay, so in this case, 32 to 34. I guess it depends on if you use a pane of glass or you use a body part. I don't even need to get into that. What I want to get into is the 2-step mechanic for making a call for illegal player downfield. So it's going to be in the interior, right? Who's illegal? We got 4 here. We got 2 on the side. So anybody in here, we're looking at 34-yard line. You guys tell me what you think. Because it's going to make a difference. I know it was pretty quick. You guys have any comments on that?
Yeah, it looked like 57 was 40.
Okay, so it looked like 57 was what?
4 yards downfield.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's why I bring this up, because I will tell you statistically that over 50% of all illegal downfield players called is incorrect, at least in this state. And the reason it's incorrect is because it's a 2-step process, not a 1-step process. The 1-step process is when you see the guy downfield, you realize it's a pass play, you throw your flag. That's the 1-step process. But the actual rule is you have to be downfield before the pass is thrown. And that is a 2-step process, meaning when you see him downfield, you have to find the ball in the quarterback's hand or just leaving the hand. Otherwise, your timing is going to be messed up. So I'll show you how close this is. All right. Is he downfield yet?
Oh. Right at the spot.
He's right at it. Where's the quarterback's arm?
Going forward.
It's in motion. So if you're the umpire or whomever is making this call, you don't have him downfield yet, right?
No.
right?
Right.
The ball's gone. When he sees him here, this is when he sees him. And he says, oh, well, it's a pass. He must be downfield. That's why over 50% of illegal downfield is incorrect. So what you need to do is recalibrate yourself. When do I see him downfield? Now. I look back, the ball's gone. That is not a foul. You will increase your accuracy by at least 30%. So two-step process. I see him downfield. Does he still have the ball? Nope, don't throw it. Unless, of course, this guy's the guy catching, unless this is 67. Of course, then you got a problem, but that's a different problem. And they did change the interpretation on downfield. It used to be you have to contact within 1 to push to 2. Now you don't need to. All right. Illegal downfields on punt plays. If it is not a designed fake, 100% of the time you'll have illegals downfield. Just throwing that out. If you have a punter that rolls out and is much more plausible that they will take off running, then you're going to likely have people downfield. Also, this guy has an illegal low block. So you can figure out who's got this, but I would say if this is your umpire position, your referee looking through here, if you've got a clean snap, should be able to see this. All right, there's your low block. And he was not threatened. So you would expect that the referee could look through to that. Now he's off running. And he throws a pass, right? Throws it from here, line of scrimmage. He's beyond. There's no one with an ineligible number that's still behind the line. So that's what happens on punts. And you can see what happens. I also want to point out that this is not where you want your back judge in this environment. And we've got a touchdown. Did I mute my volume?
Nope, we've been hearing you.
No,
No, did I mute my TV volume?
Oh, all right, yeah.
No, that's up. Okay. All right, so let me just back this up a little bit. You see this block here, right?
Yeah.
I know the umpire's looking right at it, but that's really, the umpire should be on backside rollout over here, but the referee looking through can get that. Then it's easy to see that it's pass catch. Of course, this is in play, right? So this guy's going to be a little bit distracted. The offside official should have downfields. The umpire should have downfields. Oh yeah, and listen to this announcer. You guys are going to love this.
Flips it to Polanco. Remember, there's no illegal man downfield penalty because it is a kick formation.
Yeah, you gotta love TV, right? And that guy's a high school football coach here in Hawaii. So it's just one of those plays where if you have a punt, you have to be thinking illegal downfields, which means you have to know 16 is covered. You have to know 82 is covered. If you guys have conversations with coaches and you can get those numbers before the game, that's great. Otherwise, just audibilize them before the play. 16's ineligible, 82's ineligible. Just throw those words into your mind so that you can keep those in play. Let's see what happens here. So we've got a high snap and just a straight pass. Look who's out here. I'm pretty sure that's an ineligible 54, right? So anytime you guys have a punt, you got to know who's going downfield and where they're coming from. So 54 is out there. I don't think he touched it, but he's definitely illegally downfield. So even though it would be declined, and they would take it over. If it's illegal touching has a loss of down, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, so if it's illegal touching, then it matters. So just throwing that out there as far as illegal players downfield. All right, so we've got what we refer to as K on the right and R on the left. This was not called. So and I'm not saying it should be. I'm just saying that's not our point of emphasis here. This is our point of emphasis right here. So this was called as, I think, a block in the back, probably improperly announced as a blindside block. This is the 38-yard line. Into kick is 48-yard line. So what matters here is this a PSK foul or is this a run foul? So whoever throws this foul, this one right here, you look at this contact, you look at them coming to the ground, hitting the ground, it's very difficult to tell. You know, I know the block initiated back here where the ball was loose, but by the time you finish watching, you're looking up here. It's a very difficult timing. So you just have to have a really good sense for the ball. The difference is, are you going to penalize from the 38 or are you going to penalize from the 48? Or are you going to penalize from the end of the run? Right? Obviously not the end of the run. The end of the run is the kicking team won. The when you go back to these spots, if it's during the run, then our enforcement spot would be the 38. If it's during the run, because the run ended up here, right?
Yeah.
The run ended way up here. So you come back to here if it's during the run. If it's during the kick, then it moves this spot back to the 48. So it's important when you guys or gals are working football that you try to identify the status of the ball if you have a penalty. That's the most important lesson coming out of this. So if it's during the run, your enforcement's from the 38. If it's kick, your enforcement's from this 48 back to the 42. So it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Almost made it on the rollover forward. That's one of my things, right? If it's a rollover forward, you give it to them. If it's a rollover back. So rollover forward. Let's say he rolled over, never touched the ground, got back on his feet and ran for a touchdown. Give it to him. But if he rolls over going backwards and he never touches an elbow or a body part, and then he gets back up and runs for a touchdown, call it forward progress. So that's my rollover rule. Roll over forward, let him keep going. Roll over backward, forward progress is stopped. It's in a video somewhere.
Personal foul, blindside block, receiving team number 11. 15-yard penalty from the spot of the fall.
All right, so we know it wasn't a blindside block. Blindside blocks are directional blocks, even though they're both going the same direction, they're both going the same speed, there is contact, it's side back but mostly back. That's not considered a blindside block. Blindside blocks are impact blocks, blow up blocks, safety blocks. Even though a block in the back is considered a safety foul, it's not in the same category as a blindside block. All right, this is an interesting play. So referees, end line, right? That's what you have to be aware of here. So if you're here, and this is a really good point. If your punter's backed up on the end line, it's much harder for the referee to see these guys. So whoever's opposite the referee or whatever your mechanic is for backfield help, just get on your radio or tell the guy, hey, I got an end line. Watch my backs. See what their blocks look like. So the blocks are fine. I'm just saying in general, you're going to need some help because you got the end line involved. All right. So here's the thing about this, back judges. If you have a single Let me see if I can back this up to the 1 point.
And Matt, just as a point of, just to point out, where that guy left his feet, even though the block may have been construed to be below the waist, whereas he left his feet, we're going to stay off that.
Oh yeah, he jumped up. Yeah, he was
Yeah.
off. He was off both feet. So low blocks are below the waist on grounded players or nearly grounded players, right? Go with the intent also. But this guy isn't nearly grounded. No, he's way
Right.
up. Yeah. So this is an interesting thing. Oh, I'm going to back up. So in this scenario, you can see the kicker was here, the receiver was about here, and your back judge is over here. I'm going to introduce a concept that I like, and I worked as a back judge, and I thought worked well, is that if you have a single receiver, straight line that receiver with your punter. And I know that is different than what a lot of people have heard about go at an angle, get on the wide side. But the wide side is created directionally by the punt, not before the punt. So what I suggest is lining up straight line, watch the ball off the foot, get distance trajectory, and then go straight back to your primary receiver and adjust based on the direction of the kick. If it goes left, you go right. If it goes right, you go left. In this situation, he started left, the receiver started here, and when the receiver read distance and trajectory, the receiver took off and he never got to adjust. So he's really almost losing track of his receiver. So what happens is receiver gives a quick signal, whether that's legal or not. I don't want to argue that because it still kills the play when the ball is possessed. And he says, okay, I got it. I got it here at the 44. And oh my gosh, I'm going to try to return it. And then there's a loss of the ball and the kicking team comes up with it and is awarded the football. So all of this could have been avoided if we'd have seen the signal, right? If we see the signal, it's dead right here. If we don't see the signal, then the kicking team ends up with the ball, and that's really inequitable. So I'm going to go back to this part again. And just re-emphasize that. You can see how quick you can see trajectory. All right, so here's the kicker. He's kicking the ball. The ball goes immediately this direction. So if you're straight lined and this guy takes off, all you got to do is stay where you are, and you've got a good angle on him. Or take a few steps up if you want to see it. But because he got so far away and because he was looking at action here, he missed that signal. So the signal came up, and now we're in a big hole. You also want to see if he signals after the ball hits the ground too. So you really do gotta stay with him.
Go ahead, Dan.
Matt, with that guy coming up the sideline, shouldn't you have some responsibility on covering that guy as well?
Not well, if you're in a 5-person mechanic, not really on the signal, especially since, well, let's just do the division. You got a punter on his end line, so your referee is locked down, at least until the punt's gone, and then there's no way your referee's going to help from 50. The referee's going to need a little help in the backfield, so your wings are slowed down, and your wings really should be looking for holding on your flyers. And then once the ball's away, the referee and the umpire split the field going back up the middle. So you're not going to get a lot of help. Even in a 7-person mechanic, you're not going to get a lot of help. The back judge's primary responsibility on all punts is what does the punt returner do? And how does the ball impact the punt returner? All right, so a couple of years ago, my friend Kevin from Oregon pushed through a rule change, which says that all fouls against the kicking team on scrimmage kicks and free kicks, all kicks, can be tacked on if the receiving team has the ball. So I guess I should probably show you the foul just for fun. All right, there's a low block on the interior line. I think it's right here. Okay, then the receiving team just lets the ball go. The kicking team downs it at around the 38.
Personal foul. Illegal block ball face. Defense. That correction. That foul is on the offense.
Yeah, so previously, that penalty, if they wanted to keep the ball at the 38, would have had to be declined. But as of, I think, 3 years, maybe 4 years ago, all kicking team fouls can be tacked on. So just somebody, you know, whose responsibility is it? You guys all know it's everybody. So just make it happen. All right. All right. So you can see we're punting inside the 50 here. Do you ever use 7-person mechanics?
Just for the state championship and playoff semifinal games.
Okay. So in a 7-person mechanic, almost universally, your back judge is on the punt returner, and your wings, if you're inside the 50, if you got a good punter, start here. You don't have to be straight lined, but we need to have the goal line covered in punt situations, especially if we're inside the 50. So these guys started in the wrong position. It's a deep enough kick. The back judge is going back there and looking. But if we have people here and he stays responsible for the kick returner, then we don't really have to worry about taking our eyes off of all of the field, right? He's off of the field. He's off the field. This guy over here, he's probably not watching the field. So it's important that you know what your duties are and that we're not chasing the ball around. So in this case, we've got a returner. It looks like he's got his hands up. I don't know if that's a signal or not, probably not, but it's his responsibility to know if he blocks. If he's going to come back here and cover the goal line, then it's his responsibility to see if he blocks. So if he did in fact signal, that's sometimes a 2-person mechanic. So this person over here might tell the back judge, hey, this guy blocked, did he signal? The back judge goes, yeah, he signaled. Okay, we have a foul. This guy might say, hey, this guy blocked. And the back judge goes, well, he didn't signal, so we're okay. So that's a 2-person mechanic as well. But just so that we all know what we're doing, if we're working 7 in your state championships, you're inside the 50 or the 45, your deep wings go deep, and the back judge covers your receiver. Deep wings come up as necessary. All right. I'm not sure what this play is. Did it say 16?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. Big long pass. This is just one of those things that drives me nuts. I'll show you what I'm looking at here. So once the ball's in the air, distance trajectory, you heard me say that about punts too, right? Stop looking up. We know the ball's coming down. This is where the action is. So it just drives me nuts when we're watching the ball when you got 2 players fighting for position.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit foggier, I think, than it is on my hard copy. But when this guy's looking up for the ball, he should be looking right here, right? This is where the push-off's going to happen. Well, if it's going to happen. Didn't happen there. Reverse mechanic, deep wing. All right, so we've all talked about reverse mechanics. I think this would be the last 7-man thing I do. That if you have a line of scrimmage person, if you have a side judge up here, you have a line judge down here, you have field judge down here. If there's a deep enough change of possession, then the line of scrimmage people turn around and start fading, just like our side judge, field judge would. But the key there is deep enough change of possession. So this is considered a deep change of possession. So there's no reason for the line of scrimmage guy to be running into that action, right? You're going the wrong way. Do you guys know what I mean by that? You know that concept?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because once you do that, then you got 2 people chasing the same runner. If you have a shallow change of possession, you just stuck, right? There's no fixing that. These guys are fast. Okay, free kick. All right, this one is Just a standard free kick. You see that action right there?
Oof. Low block.
It's a low block on who?
On the
Fight.
On the kicking team.
kicking
On the
team.
kicking team. Yeah, you can't go low through a player to get to a runner. Yeah, that you used to be able to, but that has changed. I'll go ahead and run this again. Right here. Yeah, so that's an
Personal foul, illegal block below the legs. Kicking team number 38, 15-yard penalty, first down, St. Louis.
yeah. So that was a pretty good get. If you guys can get that and keep it straight in your head, that's a pretty good get. But just remember, you can't go through someone low to get to a runner. You can push someone in the back to get to a runner, or a loose ball that you have the right to possess, but you can't go low through a person to get to the ball or the runner.
Illegal block below the legs. Kicking team number 38, 15-yard penalty, first down, St. Louis.
Okay.
Kick it off. For St. Louis. Nearly identical kick, but game taken right about the 12-13-yard line. This is going to be Clemente, the running back.
Okay, so the action here is on the outside. And this is when I talk about off the ball officiating. So we've usually got a guy coming up the back, coming up the sidelines. So all of this action is covered by the people that started down here. That's typically your referee and your two wings. So your back judge and your umpire are covering this area. So whoever's coming from this side has this action. So when you see the runner going down, which he is, then you got to look and see who the troublemakers are, right? This guy, he's an innocent bystander. You can see this guy coming in. You had a couple, this guy may be coming in. So just pick through it. Who's hitting the innocent bystander, right? 25 hits him. Then what happens? 34 and 1 probably get pissed off, right? So then they hit 25. Then what happens? Now 7's still pissed at 25 because he saw it. Then he goes and hits him. It's hard to process all of that. So that's why it's so important to get the first guy. Everybody after that, I'm not as concerned about, but get that first guy.
For St. Louis.
Look for the hitter. Look for the guy that, as they say, carrying the brick. Right? He's down. That now we start looking. Bam, bam, another bam coming. And then they end up throwing the foul.
Foul late hit. Receiving team number 21. Half the distance to the goal. First down, Kamehameha.
Yeah, so they throw the foul on the recipient. I mean, the guys that are retaliating. 7, that was nothing. And then 21 hits 34, so you got a big mess. But it was all started by blue 25. So when you guys are working this play, just know when you're on the outside and when you're on the inside. If you're working over here, you're on the outside. If you're working here, you're helping with progress. If you're working here, you got the sideline. If you're working up here, you're working the inside. Whoever's out here and possibly here, you're working this guy will be working this outside. This guy will be working this outside. So just know where you're supposed to be looking and don't get caught ball watching or saying, oh, I don't have anything to do on this play. Because there was a lot to do. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and then as we know, there was a 4th. So the dead ball officiating, the off the ball officiating, super important to maintaining any kind of composure during the game. All right, this is an interesting play, and it has to do with working the 50-yard line. I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. So we know we're kicking from the 40, standard kickoff. This is an onside kick. You can see the ball is here at the moment. And in order for the kicking team to get it, 2 things need to happen, right? Either it goes 10 yards and has touched the ground, or it has touched a receiver. So when the kick goes, it bounces over this receiver and it's caught by the kicking team right here. So what yard line is that?
49.
Yeah, even if he doesn't come down, it's touched there, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you can see that the official drops his bag on that 49 right there. And there's a little bit of action, and then there's a clock stop, and they try to figure it out. So we have a kick, bounces over the receiver, touched at the 49. He runs all around. The bag goes to the correct spot, but something happens because they gave the kicking team the ball at this 49. There's only two ways that happens. Either the beanbag was accidentally kicked or purposefully kicked, or somebody picked it up to do you a favor and said, here it is. And then somebody said, well, where was the touch? And you say the 49, and you don't differentiate which 49, and then we end up giving the ball to the wrong team. So one of the way, and really the mechanic was perfect, right? He puts the beanbag down at the correct 49. What I suggest to whoever's working the receiver's restraining line is to audibilize it out loud. Short or over. Did he touch it short or did he touch it over? If you do that, then you probably won't get your 49s mixed up. But as you can see here, it can happen simply by a bag getting kicked or accidentally picked up, and then a slight miscommunication somewhere where the 49 was misinterpreted. So it's just a great communication play to make sure that that everybody's on the same page. 22, horse collar tackles. We're a little bit more strict with them here. This was called a horse collar tackle. Got in on the collar right there, pulled him backwards. The intent is don't buckle knees, ankles, or hips. That's exactly what happens. We felt this was a correct call for horse collar tackle. Don't buy yourself out on him because he might have gone slightly forward. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent. This was called a horse collar tackle, even though there may have been a buckle. He didn't have his hand in the right spot. You can see his hand is well below the numbers or at the bottom of the numbers. This is not a horse collar tackle, even though it did have the same effect. You may have somebody call this from maybe from the back judge position. Maybe he doesn't see this activity because 3's blocking him. But somebody has to come in and say, no, he didn't get the hand. He didn't get the hand in the horse collar spot. This was also called a horse collar tackle. Looked like one, but wasn't. Same effect, same buckling of the knee. But you can see the hand up here on this shoulder. He's not, well, we'll see later that he's not pulling from there. Never turns the shoulders until the hand is gone. Looks like a horse collar, but the hand slips off up top. He's pulling him down from the side. And this is one that people debated nationally. So I don't think there's any question that the leverage of the tackle is going to come from here. So what people debated was, well, he fell forward. So is that a horse collar tackle or is that not? Really, it's up to your guys as an interpreter. Here it is. And here's why. He's got his hands in the wrong spot. And right here, you can start to see the buckle. So as soon as I see that buckle, that's when I call it. And if anybody calls this, you know, he's only dragging from the collar, ends up taking him to the ground, even though he falls forward. To me, that still meets the intent of stay out of the collar. I tried to get the language in the horse collar tackle changed from to the ground to toward the ground, but they thought that would be too difficult to officiate. I don't know why. And unless we made it a 5 and a 15, which would be ridiculous. So sorry for getting off on that tangent. 26. It's just, they're just plays you need to have good looks at. I don't mind those guys calling those ones that were slightly off just because it's hard. It's hard to see every angle. And you get that same kind of action sometimes when you don't have the collar. But this is nameplate, so that qualifies as the wrong spot to be in. And he's pulling him back. You can see the hip buckle. And he turns him and he pulls him to the ground. And you can see he's still got the whole shirt collar. So it's just something you got to get used to looking at. But those are the interpretations we had on those. I'm gonna jump a little bit. So here we are. We're in a big game. Competitive, fourth quarter, 7-11. We're driving. This could potentially tie it up. And the umpire is pretty quick on a holding call. And it goes right through here. So we've got a square up here, right? We've got a square up here to the hole. We got a square up here. I just don't know how you can call holding on that. So the only way you really call holding on this is if you're wound too tight. If you just are, when you get into situations that are big moments, then you just get a little too tight. And you just need to pull yourself back a little bit and say, let's just go with the fundamentals. If the blockers, I forget what my friend Frank VR used to say, but I think he used to say the crack is whack. If the blocker's butt crack is facing the runner, you probably don't have holding. That was his way of remembering that. So unless that blocker gets beat or you see a real upper body twist that would prevent that defender from getting to the runner, it doesn't matter how big the play is. You got to call it the same way the whole game. And if you're calling it wrong the whole game, your supervisors are going to hold you. You'll get a call from somebody. But if you're calling it right the whole game and you call it the same way when you get into tight situations, you're going to be the kind of person that people want to work with. All right. This is another example of a holding call. And I just want to emphasize the point also is if the defender goes where they want to go, then the standard has to be higher. So I think this is a play that comes this way. I believe this is the person that's involved in this. Let me just take a quick look. Yeah. So you can see that his initial move was in, and then he started coming out. You guys need to see that again?
No, we should.
Yeah, his initial move is in, and he's coming out on his own. He chose to go this direction. And then the blocker gets good position on him, and then there's a little bit of a tug and a hold. But because the defender went that way, you can see him come in, and then he goes out on his own. It doesn't matter what happens out here anymore. I mean, unless it's a personal foul. So we're watching this guy. When he gets outside, when does the hold occur? 1, 2, probably there, right? This has nothing to do with anything. Unless that's a personal foul, that doesn't have anything to do with what's happening on the field. Just make sure they don't start hitting each other. Yeah, he completely vacated the play on his own. Here's another one, except it's on the inside. I think it's either this guy or this guy that cuts way in. Yeah, it's this guy. Let me back up. All right, so the run is going to come right through this hole, but look which direction he picks when he first starts out. Takes himself outside, right? So on this spin, if there's a hold right there, he never got to him. He took himself out there. It's a tough concept to get because I know you guys see these guys grabbing. But once you say, well, he took himself out there, 1, 2, 3. He's out there. The runner's by him. That's just way too fast to call holding when the defender put himself out of position. You guys okay with that concept?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's just see here. This is just a free blocking zone reminder. I haven't looked at this play in a while. So since I haven't, let's just talk about it. 4 yards this way, 4 yards that way. We're in a tight formation, so tight ends are in, right? And 3 yards up and back, so it's at the 11 and the 5. Let's see what happens here. Oh, so low block defender, instant, immediate charge. That's fine, right?
Yep.
Okay. I think that was it. Yeah, I think they called it illegal low block when that's legal because it was immediate charge in the free blocking zone. Let's just take a real quick, let's just make sure it's immediate. Okay, he's on the line of scrimmage. I can buy that. He's the guy he blocks is on the line of scrimmage. Snap, immediate. Yeah, that's fine. We good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Just a couple of points on cross-field mechanic. I know a lot of people talk about cross-field mechanic. Cross-field mechanic, if the runner runs out of bounds, does not apply. If the runner runs out of bounds, it's up to that field official to get the out-of-bounds spot. The only time forward progress cross-field mechanics applies is if it's an inbounds receiver pushed back and progress is being ruled. Same thing with interceptions. You can have cross-field progress on interceptions. You can have cross-field progress on quarterback sacks. So we have an inbounds play and a pushback. So whose responsibility for progress? This guy up here, way up here on the other side of the field. Because he's protecting himself. He's got perfect distance. He's watching the ball, looking at the catch. By the time this play is over, still look over here, though, by the way. Don't get out of your shorts. Right? He's already left it. These two guys are still together. That's too soon. You should still be here. Then once they clear, then you run up the field, find the spot that your buddy gave you, and that's a proper cross-field mechanic spot. So, and the reason that exists is because we don't want you to leave these guys alone, right? We want you to be safe, number one, and we want these guys to be safe and untangle properly. So stay with them. Once it's over, go up and get the spot from your cross-field official. 36, this is another one. Okay, deep. All right, so he catches it, he's contacted, he's starting to think, oh, they're a little close to me, right? I gotta stop. Let that action clear up. He's not ruling out of bounds, he's ruling progress, and because he's stopping the clock, I guess he's ruling a first down, which should really be up to the crossfield person. Yeah, so he didn't look. So in a perfect world, all right. If the contact is here, he's probably short. So in a perfect world, the opposite side official just picks a spot, whether he's got him short or whether he's got him making it. And that's this person over here's responsibility. It's your responsibility just to make sure that the catch is made, number one, and that these guys separate and are safe. So in looking at this again, I see that he never looked up. He judged first down right away, even though it's super close, and he picked his own spot. So that's not how to work cross-field mechanics. Okay, 37, reverse goal line. So inside the 5, I think, are you guys putting both people back inside the 5 or just one? Both. Okay. So I know some people do 7, some people do 5. Whatever your mechanic is up to you guys. But the important thing is that he can't see the goal line, not from the right perspective. So snap and back, right? Especially shotgun, because we're putting the ball right on the goal line, right?
Yes.
So we're moving back, and this guy starts making progress. So you start thinking, well, maybe I can come off the goal line. Don't do it. Don't, especially over here. because you're not safe yet. Now he starts to cut back. It's threatened the whole time. So you can see he came off early. It's very possible that on this second bounce out, right, he gets hit here. It's very possible on this second bounce out that he reverts back in, comes back out, or reverses field on you. So hold that line until you're certain that it's not going to be threatened. In fact, it doesn't even have to be the player. It could be the ball. Let's say he gets hit here and the ball pops out. Bam, bam, bam. Right? Or even worse, bam, bam, bam to the pylon. So keep your position. Keep holding that line until you feel that the ball is safe, the player is safe, and the goal line's not threatened. At the snap, this is not a reverse, obviously. This is a standard goal line. So at the snap, he's going to the goal line, waiting for the play to develop. Player's clearly down, works his way back up. That's perfect. That's exactly how you're supposed to work goal line mechanics. So we did one back and one forward goal line mechanic. Okay, substitutions. We have offense on the right, defense on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and number 12 is trying to get off. Yeah, play clock's running, so let him go. Let him try to get off. If he doesn't get off, throw it as a live ball. If he does get off, good for him. But if he's in formation, now if he's back here and he's stationary and he's doubling this guy, and you see it, the snap's going to be imminent, call it, shut it down, make it a 5. But if he's trying to get off, let him try. If he doesn't make it, it's still a live ball 5 versus a dead ball 5, but at least you avoid the 15 and you don't take something away from the offense, which was a pretty good gainer there. Is everybody okay with that concept?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's what we do.
Okay. All right. And then this play, this is the last one I'll show for the day. And this is a hard situation to get. This is a standard spearing or targeting foul, depending on how you like to look at it. Runner going for it, and it's just hard to see. Everything happens fast.
Yeah, typically is more of a quick hitter, off tackle, not a sweep play. And Pulisilo was all over that.
So the only person that can see this type of targeting is whoever is not responsible for the goal line. In this case, the back judge, they were working 7 here, but let's just say in your case, you're working 5. The back judge is the only person that could possibly see this technique. And when you see a defender drop his helmet in line with his back and hit a runner square, that's the best indicator that you've got spearing or targeting. I know it's not common to call this type of play, but it is becoming more common. And you can see what kind of devastating impact it can have on the defender here. So let me just roll that back and see if we can't see it in action here. Yeah, so that's a foul. I know that it's super hard to see in full. Oh, here's another pet peeve of mine. Oh my gosh. When you guys talk to your ball handlers over here, tell them not to dick around with footballs. That just drives me nuts, right? I mean, you got to sweep to this side, and he's throwing a football up in the air that could easily be bouncing out there when this guy runs around. So when you talk to your ball handlers, tell them when you get inside the 10 that they're outside the 10, and no juggling of the football. Here we go. Yeah, just, I hate that. All right, and you can kind of see the posture here, but it's super hard to get because this official is focusing on the runner. The only person that can see it is the off official, which means back judge, you have to focus on incoming defenders. You have to work off of the ball in situations like this. It's obviously a run, so you're off of receivers. So the only thing you can do to try to pick this up, and it is difficult, is to work off the ball, meaning pick this guy up out here. Very difficult to get.
Is more of a quick hitter, off.
Yeah, real tough play. But that's the kind of play that can also take a kid out for a long time.
Well answered.
All right, I think that's it for the video. I can stop sharing that, and if you
Excellent.
talk about something or call it quits, we can do that too. That's up to you guys.